Jeffrey, say hello. Say hello, Jeffrey. You can't see it, but just say hello.
Well, hello there.
Anyway, that's the notorious Jeffrey Sean that we're talking about today. The Jeffrey Sean, my twin flame. Anyway, so hello, how are you? I wanted to talk about a topic that is very popular on my channel, and it is about how to manifest your twin flame. Now, I'm going to give you some different scenarios, and I'm also going to talk about creating the scene, because this seems to be something that is quite often asked about. And is it asked or asked about? And so I wanted to share with you my scene that I created. Now, obviously, we know that everyone's experiences are quite different, but you can actually get a bit of an idea of what I did and the things that I didn't do, so that I was able to manifest my twin flame quite quick. Am I embarrassing you?
No, I thought I was embarrassing you.
Yeah, a little bit. But okay, so let me see. I'm trying to think, how did I create the scene? Okay, so I didn't actually know of Neville Goddard until recently. But when I went back to think about how I created and manifested my twin flame, it actually was a lot of the same teachings. And so the one main thing that I did do was I created the idea. Okay, so first of all, what you want to do is you want to grab a piece of paper, and you want to write down what your desire is. Now, I know because you're listening to this video that you want to create, that you want to manifest your twin flame, right? But you can actually use this for many, many things that you want to manifest. And the reason that I recommend that you don't have to, like when you're creating your scene and all that sort of thing, you don't have to write all of this down. Now, I don't want to overwhelm you when I say that, but the reason that I want you to write down your desire is that this is bothering me. I'm so sorry, you. My bonnet. But anyway, there's scientific proof that it works hand in hand. When you're writing something, it goes into your subconscious more clearly and imprints faster than just thinking of something. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to get a piece of paper, and I want you to write down what you want. And you don't have to be specific. You can be if you want to. Now, I'm an artist, so I like doing that. I've always loved penmanship. I love writing, so it's never been an issue for me. So, of course, that is something that I thought of, and I wanted to write it down, you know. And in prime example, have you ever thought about, like, you wake up one day and, like, you got to go to work, you got to go to the supermarket, you have to go to, you know, the charity shop, you got to drop some things off, you got to do this, like your to-do list. Have you ever noticed, like, if you write the to-do list things down on paper, and then, like, say you go to the store and you forgot, and you're like, oh, I'm at market, let me get my list out. If you forgot the list, you sort of remember what you wrote down because it went into the cognitive, right? It went into your brain, and you cognitively remember what you wrote, because it's like hand-mind coordination, if that makes any sense. I don't know the scientific terms, okay? Sue me, shoot me, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, write the shit down, okay? Write the shit down, it's fun. And you don't have to write it down. But anyway, okay, so what I did is, I guess I should back up. Now, this is going to be 2 videos because, listen, it's a long fucking story. And, you know, I'm writing stuff. I mean, I'm always recording stuff, and I never can do anything short. How do these YouTubers do it? I don't understand it. Like, they can do, like, 5-minute video. And when I'm doing it, I'm sitting there, oh, I forgot that, and I forgot that. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, I'm just a talker, you know. But anyway, okay, so let's get on with it. So first of all, you want to create your desire. Second of all, you want to create a scene. Now, if you know anything about Neville Goddard, and him talking about scenes, like if you've read his books and things of that nature, you know what he says as far as like creating a scene and going to the end of that particular scene. Okay, now if you want to, let me reverse this story a bit, because I want to give you the background. Okay, now listen, I had been married, and you know how like you have those moments, like listen, for my ill-suited ex-mate, I was married to him for 24 years. Now he was my only first ever boyfriend I ever liked. Okay, so, and if you've read my blog, you know that my experience has not been like, it's very, very limited. And I came from a very strong background of religion and theology. And so I had never like been, you know, I never dated or anything. Like this boy was the first boy I ever liked, every boy I ever kissed and whatnot. And so I did have those moments, even through my dating years, you know, in high school, to where there was moments that I felt like, I don't know if this person is the person I want to be with forever, you know. But you think that those are just moments of like you're growing and learning, and like, is it puppy love or whatever? And so I never really super focused on it quite so deeply until we were married. Anyway, there's a lot of, you know, hills and burrows and things of that nature about this story about us from my ex-mate, you know. But when it started really coming close to the shorelines, I should say, of my emotions, and where I was becoming extremely more discontent in my marriage, was because now there had been, which I didn't know of at the time, but there had been, you know how like a woman knows? Do you know what I'm saying? Like you might not have proof, but there's something in your gut that's telling you like something's not right here. Well, it started getting more and more common as the years passed, where I would become very, very distraught about my relationship. And so I had always in my years wanted to have like soulmate, you know, but I never talked about it. And I think on other videos I had spoken about it too as well, but I had never really like experimented with it because I was in religion, and I thought that was shameful and it was unacceptable, you know, like crystals and, you know, law of attraction. That's not religious Christian based. And so we were always forewarned, like, stay away from that. That's like evil, you know. And so I never would dive into it. Anyway, forward on, it seemed like every month, and for you ladies, you know, I thought maybe it's because I'm very emotional that time of month, you know, that I wanted to, like, I would get to the point where I'd be like so frustrated. I was like, I hate my marriage, I don't like this person, you know, and I didn't know how to channel my anger. So I would just stuff it down and just like, oh, it's just me being emotional at that time of month, you know. And so I thought I just had to chalk it up to that. I mean, what was I going to do? I'm in a marriage for an eternity. Like that's how at that point I became Mormon. So I was in the thick of that religion. And so, you know, before that I was growing up in a religion that was like, you have to have Bible excuse if you're Pentecostal, Church of God, you know, like you got to have a Bible excuse for divorce. Like it's you're married for life, you know, and let it come quickly is what I got to say. Yeah, now. But anyway, the point is I had no idea at the time that my husband was an adulterer. Like I really didn't know. I had shamefully put it away in my mind. I think I just pocketed it back in the back of my mind, you know. I didn't want to accept it, which I should have, like, straight away, because he did it when we were dating. And then I thought, well, no, it's when we get married, it'll be different, you know, it'd be different, like he'll change. And no, that didn't happen. And so I knew intuitively, my gut, and like, I mean, not to be too personal, but I will be, because you know I'm very transparent, you know, and I will share lots of things with you. And so I had even like proof that like he was having an affair on me, And I guess I was naive. I didn't want to accept it. You know, this was like right when we were married too. And so I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. You know, but anyway, without going into more detail on that, long story short, I was becoming very fed up. And but I never thought, you know, I'm going to go outside the marriage. I'm going to have an affair. I'm going to do all this stuff. Now, in 2009 is when it started to really come full throttle. I mean, I was feeling so upset and so like it was just compounding. It was one of those things with a mortar and then you put another brick and you lay it on and then you do another bit of mortar and then you put another brick on. And it was becoming, there were so many things in my marriage that was so dysfunctional, you know. But when you're in it and you're like, you start out with a boy that when you're 14 years old, that's still a child, you know. So you become acclimated to think that's normal. And furthermore, I grew up in a very dysfunctional, I mean, domestic violence was like a normal thing in my life, in my growing up. So you think that's normal, you know. So when I'm telling you this stuff, you know, I want you to understand, and I will start to be a bit cry a little bit, but understand that when I tell you these things and how far I've come, that you don't have far to go when you're hearing me, as far as like getting your twin flame. And you also, I don't want you to feel like there's no hope for you, because like I grew up in such a very difficult time, you know, and so, but I still made it out. Like we all have such courageous hearts, and we sometimes just maybe not know it, but I'm here to encourage you and inspire you that I know you do. You know, I might look like a granny, your granny, you know, but I do have a lot of wisdom behind me. You know, I lost my son, he was murdered. I've dealt with all kinds of like domestic abuse and psychological, mental abuse, emotional anguish that I was in. And so a lot of times I think for girls that are like abused and things like that, like me, you want someone to come in and rescue you. You want someone to be there like your knight in shining armor. Like when you're a little girl, you want someone to take care of you. And so maybe I want it so bad. Is deeply a word? Like we deeply want it so badly. And that's all a part of the whole process. But actually, I wanted to really try and dive in because I was new to like the law of attraction, you know, because after I left theology, I left the two strong religions. I was just like, this can't be like, if I'm living all my life this way and I'm still absolutely miserable, there has to be another answer. And so I won't tell you the whole story that what catapulted me onto that one, but I will another day if you'd like to hear it. It was like my coming to Jesus or something, you know what I mean? Like, and but yeah, so I had just had it, and my ex-mate had a dear friend. He had a dear mate. It was his best pal. And as far as like, you know what I'm saying, like I would never consider or even think about having an affair, right? But I ended up having an emotional affair with him, which I sometimes wonder if that is not even worse, you know what I mean? Like, because the emotions of a woman, like that's where it really got me. And so I was hooked on this man for like literally like 7 years, okay? So that's bringing me up to like where I'm about to tell you that I started diving into when I started in 2014 my YouTube channel, because no one would listen to me, especially my mate. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Maybe there's some other women that are out there like me. And if you go back on my channel, you'll see like I was just starting out, like understanding the whole thing about like law of attraction and that and whatnot. And so fast forward, like I've read in like so many books and probably 50,000 hours of like law of attraction stuff. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to see if this stuff works. Like, let's see if I can do it, because isn't that the fun of it? Like you want to experiment, try it out, test it. That's what Neville Goddard says, test it, you know? So I was like, I'm going to test it. Test it. That's what Neville Goddard says, test it, you know? So I was like, I'm going to test it. Although I had recuperated, I was trying to make amends, I was trying to go through that whole process of like, dealing with, you know, me having an emotional affair. So then I was at Mormon at the time, so I had to go to like my bishop and confess, and a life of a Mormon, you know what that means. And so I was like, yeah, I guess I didn't want to make the marriage work. I actually had moved out and was living with my girlfriend for 7 months. And I was like, no, I want divorce, you know. Even although I knew I wasn't going to end up with his best mate, I still want to divorce. And but then because of so much tradition, so much conditioning, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to bury it again. I'm just going to bury this and like, let's try to move forward. This is 2009. So with 2012-13, my husband gets fired from his job. Little did I know it was because of other reasons. I had no clue. Like, he was living a totally separate life, completely opposite of what we were living as a family, right? Children, 2 dogs, living in a gated community, lots of money in the bank, lots of drive nice vehicle. I mean, the whole lot, right? But it was fake. It was a sham. I didn't know it though. I was like going along like I thought it was fine, you know. Anyway, so we end up going and moving, which takes me to the me getting my YouTube channel in 2014, right? So we're living in California. I ended up loving it in California. I wanted to stay there forever. I was like, oh my God, I love it. I love this place. I would never want to leave, you know. But once again, my husband ends up getting fired. Well, it was for a reason that I thought was different, but I didn't know this until at the time, right? So now we've got to move again, and I'm like, I don't want to move. I don't want to leave here. So this was the iceberg. Like no one saw this coming. I didn't even realize what was coming either, because I'd stuffed my life down so far that I was like, forgot who the fuck I was, you know what I mean? Like, can you relate to me on that? Like sometimes you just bury it. You bury it and you think, no, it's just this, or it's just that. I'll just take a pill, or I'll just take an antidepressant or Prozac, or let me just take a sleeping pill. No, it's fine. But I knew, because I was so holistic. I was the kind of person that, like, before I grew up like essential oils. I was like a hippie girl, you know what I mean? Like a little gypsy girl. And I was like, no, this is not right. It didn't feel good to me anymore. You know, I was like, I'm done with this. And so when I knew we were moving from California, I was just like, I can't take it anymore. So I started, because I am a dreamer of a sort, you know what I mean? There's some people that like really go into themselves, and I don't know if it probably has a lot to do with, like, my water sign is in 3 areas. Like, I'm a Pisces, a Cancer, like every one of my signs are in the water sign. So that's like a triple fold, you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Triple fold. Anyway, it's a triple doozy if you're water sign, you know, a water sign. And so I just decided I'm going to have this YouTube channel, and I basically told my husband, like, no, I'm packing up. And when I pack up this time, I'm staying in California. I'm going to go back. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get back to California, because I want to live there forever, you know. Little did I know that, like, I really loved my little hometown where I grew up and everything. But at the time, I was just I had been moved 21 times in this marriage. And so I was like spent, you know. So this probably should not be called the scene. Let me just say, this is going to be the backstory, okay? This is backstory of how I came to decide that I wanted to manifest my twin flame. So we're living in California. We have to end up moving. So he gets a job that's like a fourth of what he ever made, and he made really, really good money because he's in entertainment. I won't say who he is, but he's in entertainment. And so it was like a real blow, you know, to the ego, because when you're dealing with someone that's an actor, they're in television, they're in movies, things like that, like they got big egos, if you know what I mean. They're overcompensating for something. Anyway, back to it. So I end up moving. So I'm thinking I'm going to begin my journey inside, right? Because I've been listening to the law of attraction. I found Abraham Hicks, all these different like spiritual mystic people on the YouTube, and I just started just absorbing it. And so I hatched a plan in my mind that I'm going to get out of this marriage. Now, I'd never told another person, which I didn't know. This is like a Neville Goddard strategic particular method too. It's like, never tell what you're doing. Do it all up in here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't. And I didn't realize that is what I'm doing, but I was doing exactly that. So I hatched a plan and I said, I'm going to pack up. I'm going to divorce this man. In my mind, I'm saying all this. And I'm going to one day I will find my soulmate. Now, let me in this video, because next one is going to be about how that came about, okay? Now I'm going to give you part 2. So what happened was we moved to Oklahoma. Now fast forward, now all these years since 2009, I'm feeling like dreadful in my marriage, but I'm not saying anything to anyone. Like, I was so mentally exhausted, so I had no friends and sort of thing, like I had been alienated from everyone in my life, you know. And so I didn't want anyone to know, like, the tragedy that was happening inside my mind, because I thought maybe I'm having a bit of a go, like I'm going mad, you know. But I used to think and dream about the fact that I wanted to have a soulmate or twin flame, but it was just a dream, you know. So what happened was I said, I'm going to start thinking in my mind. I'm like, one day I'm going to find my soulmate. But so what I did was I watched this video, or I listened to this video from the Abraham Hicks workshop. Now, I don't always listen to or do everything that I learned from Abraham Hicks, because I went to like the workshops and I got really involved in it. You know, I would really do it. And I've manifested so many things that way. But I just knew that there had to be a quicker way. But I was on the Abraham Hicks method. Little did I realize that I was actually doing Neville Goddard. And I like that process better, because now I can tell you exactly. So the scene that I created was, basically the scene was that I would draw a bath, because I love it. I'm a mermaid too. Like, that was my career, you know. I was a real mermaid at Wikiwachi. And so, yeah, I'm sure you know that. But anyway, so I draw a bath and do my candles and all that sort of thing. And so it was like, no, you just affirm and you just say, you talk about how much you like the different things of different people. Okay, so remember I told you, fast forward in the other video, that I was telling you that when I had that emotional affair, the things that I loved about that person was that he was very talkative to me. He always complimented me, like always telling me how cute I was, or I was adorable, or I was dressed so cute in my skirts. He would go to like the grocery store with me. He would go to the like movie theater with me. I know, well, you shouldn't be doing all these things with someone that's a friend of the family, but anyway, that's what happened, okay? So I realized that although nothing transpired with us, I took all of those beautiful things that I liked about him, and I thought about them, because I was like, I want someone like that in my soulmate, my twin flame. I want someone that's like very nurturing to me. I want someone that's very complimentary, or that likes that I wear dresses and dress old fashioned. Like, I don't want to be an object of being disgruntled with me, or being upset, or like not taking me in public because I like to wear old fashioned clothing, you know what I mean? So we as women or men, we go through the sands of time, sifting through men and women, right? You're going through lots of relationships. And so you find little bits and pieces of every relationship that you've been, even if it ended awful, right? At least you know, wow, my husband, my ex-mate was like that. I know I want the complete opposite of that. Like somebody that is absolutely so loyal. It's ridiculous. And this is what I would say when I'd take my bath and I'm like, oh, my soulmate's he's going to have a beautiful sharp nose, and he's going to have, like, he loves me. So I didn't know who the hell he was, but I'm just saying, in my mind, I imagine like, oh, he's going to have he's going to be like sort of tall, but not too tall, like 6'1", too tall for me, because I'm a tiny little thing, you know. And so I wanted somebody like that. I said, oh, I want them to have naturally curly hair, lots of curly hair, because my ex-mate, he was like balding, you know what I mean? He had no hair. I wanted someone who had hair. And So I just went on and on like a rampage, like, oh, he has beautiful hair. Oh, he loves to garden, and he loves to go, garbage diving, like dump diving at like old thrift stores. He likes to go to the flea market. He likes to, work in the garden. He loves to grill on the grill. He's like a real manly man, but he's also nurturing and kind-hearted and very complimentary, like on and on. Okay, that's the scene basically. That's all I did when I would talk about this person that I did not know who in the world he was, where he was coming from. Because if anything, honestly, I was thinking that I would meet my twin flame somewhere in the near future. Because if anything, I was in a marriage. I had 4 children. I had my 2 dogs. I was still doing carpool for school, my daughter, which is my youngest, at the time, she was, senior in high school or 11th grade. But, they're pretty much on their own like that. They got boyfriends. You never see them. They're doing the jobs and all that sort of thing. So I was still, piddling around with a little bit of stuff, but, still making bread and cooking supper and things of that nature. But in my mind, when I would take my bath like that, I would think, this is the person that I want. And I would just go onto like a rampage of appreciation for this person that I didn't know who was, right? And so I would just say all the things that I wanted, that I knew absolute, that I wanted in a mate. Now, I never thought about how I was going to get there. I thought living in the end. Now, I didn't know that was the term that you use, of living in the end. But I never thought about that. And anytime that ever came up, like I started getting like anxious, right? I would draw a bath. I would take my dogs on a walk or a jog. I would walk down to the lake. I would start sketching, find something to do that made me happy. If that was watching Downton Abbey on Amazon Prime, that's what I did. I would run that thing in a loop. Or Beatrix Potter movie, Mrs. Potter, or whatever your favorite movie is, like Tombstone, if you're a cowboy or whatever. Like, find something that makes you fucking happy, that takes your mind. You need to distract yourself, okay? It can't be anything like, oh, I'm going to do this. Like something that you don't have to idly sit and think about. Like, because if you do, you're still going to do the act, like washing the dishes, and you're still going to be thinking about, how am I going to get out of this divorce? How am I going to get out of this marriage? That sort of thing. So it needs to be something that's going to completely divert your attention from, because that's all you need is the distraction, okay? Now, that is basically the scene that I did. And I did that and just did it. I wasn't expecting that I was going to know how it was going to come to be. Because when we're doing that, let me explain to you, it's not imprinted in the subconscious, okay? When you know that like an act as imprinted, or your scene is imprinted in your subconscious, you know, because you never get anxious. You never think, how's it going to happen? Is it going to be at the Starbucks? Am I going to see him in the line? Am I going to meet him like in my friends? Oh, what if I don't go to that club tonight? I might miss him. No. If you're thinking like that, it is not imprinted in your subconscious, right? So we've got to imprint it first. Now, I will tell you how you know when it's imprinted. Have you ever been wishing for something like, say for instance, oh, let me see, what's something that I never had resistance of? Obviously, I never had resistance with my soulmate, because honestly, I was thinking like in the future. I was thinking I want to get rid of this, lad that got attached to me at the hip now. And I don't really care about like getting with a man now. Like, I just don't want to have anything to do with men, really. Like, I'm thinking of this beautiful, like, wonderful man in the future. So it never occurred to me. I didn't realize what was happening. And what I was actually doing is imprinting my subconscious. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to test it. Because how many times you get on the YouTube and you're like, it's great and wonderful, and people tell you all these things, right? They'll explain to you, like, from A to Z, this is what you do. But it's like, well, you never told me your own story. I don't fucking know, like, who you talking about. Like, Mrs. Tiggy Winkle down the street. Like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I know you have to understand me. Like, I would always think, I love this YouTuber. But I'm like, but they rarely tell me what they're doing. Like, did you manifest it in 2 months, or are you saying this is how you do it, but you didn't fucking do it? Like, I'm not going to tell you that, like in September, I said, oh, I want to go viral on the Instagram. Why? Just because I fucking want to. I don't have a real big reason. Like, well, actually I do. My desire is because I want to connect with a lot of women and men, but mostly women that have gone through the same experiences of me, you know, like being in religion, understanding like what in the shit goes on in our minds, you know what I mean? And I always wanted to be of help to other people. And so how can you really teach something if you've not gone through it? Like, I'm not going to tell you about a twin flame. I'm not going to tell you about going viral on Instagram if I've never fucking done it before. I haven't done it yet. I'm doing it now. And it will come to pass. I know it's hardened into fact. Now it's a matter of time, right? So anyway, my dragon story is, yeah, so you got your scene. Then you got, you know, when it's imprinted, okay? So if you're ever feeling like a little bit like, oh my God, no, you're not fucking up. Don't worry, you're not fucking up, okay? Because everybody wants to tell you, oh, now you fucked up, now you got to start again. But you're never missing the boat, darling. You're never missing the fucking boat. You're going to get your twin flame. If I'm here to tell you, you will get it. I don't care. It might take you longer. Sometimes it takes longer. But that's all right. But if you don't want it to take longer, it doesn't have to. That's the beauty of us having the control of being a god, you know, goddess. So that was the one thing that was the big drawback on me with the Abraham Hicks, is that it was a very passive way of looking at, like, me placing my order into the universe, and then I've got to wait. You know, maybe I'm deemed not acceptable, or I'm not in alignment enough, and it's like always feeling like that not good enough, and I don't like that feeling, and I'm like, no, there has to be another way. So I was bloody irritated, and that's how I found Never Goddard. Basically I was like plead with my son Sawyer. You know, my son, he was 24, he was a rapper, he was a coming up star too. He had gotten like a deal with somebody like that was famous and everything, but I mean, he got killed, he got murdered like June of 2019, okay? So when that frustration happened and he died, like I had to, I mean, I needed to learn something else. Do you know what I mean? Like, tragedy will cause you to go into a different area. The experience of wanting to understand things more deeply when something like that massively, I mean, with anything. I mean, listen, you could have somebody that was like, you were molested when you were a little girl, you know? And so you're going to want to find the reason for why things happen sometimes in your life. If you're inquisitive like me, which I think a lot of people are, you know, we're more alike than we ever are differently. Let's be honest, right? So yeah, we got the scene, we got the imprint, then we've got the realizing that what causes it not to imprint, which is the anxiousness and feeling like, you know what, if you feel like I've got to keep doing this, you know what I mean? Like let me keep going over the scene. Like, this is what I was doing like with the Instagram. And I realized that's why I'm not getting it manifested. Like, the end of September is when I started it. I was like, oh, I think I want. Now we're in January, but I realized what it was because I was like, oh, it's not been printed. That's why. Now then after that happens, I'm going to share the next story about like how mine came to be, okay? Like the actual thing that manifested. And that will be on the next video because I don't want you to be like, oh my God, this woman rambles on. Now listen, if you're on my channel, you know I ramble on. That's me, I ramble on. I'm not apologizing for it. But that's just my nature. I'm going to give you way more than you probably want, but you go back over it and you can get reference. And you can listen back to my video and you might remember something or hear something that you didn't hear either, like before, you know what I mean? So I will tell you about the story, about like how it came to be in the next video. But the one last thing that I want to say to you is that you will manifest your twin flame. It will be the perfect timing. And I know sometimes you're like, oh shit, she's fucking gonna bloody tell me this too. I don't want to fucking hear that. Like, I want to know, you know what I mean? And if you really want to know, then that means, darling, that you still got a little bit of work to do, doesn't it? Yeah. You got a little bit of work to do, but that's all right, right? Because it doesn't take a long time. When you want something bad enough, you want it, you're going to get it. And you'll get it quicker than you think possible. Because that's the thing, is like, You hear so many people that are naturally in the world, and they're like, oh, it's going to take, 10 years, or you might not ever be a New York Times bestselling author, or you're never going to get signed with it. Like, that is so limited in limiting beliefs that I can't stand it. You know what I mean? I do not subscribe to anything that is like, the sky's the limit. And I literally mean the sky is the limit, even beyond the sky, right? So, yeah. So the last thing I want to say is just remember, like, it's going to be all right, darling. You're going to get your twin flame. And what's going to happen is it's going to bonk you upside the head. You're not even going to realize it, like how you meet them. And so it's always when you least expect it. I know you've heard that a million times, right? But that's the synchronicities of the world and your higher God self. Like my Raquel, higher being God self, is knowing all of these things because that's in a different dimension. So my higher God self knows how to get me to do this, and this little synchronicity will add up to that and to that and to that. And most of the time, you're never going to believe it in a million years. You're still going to be like, logic takes over, and you're like, how the hell did that happen? Like, but you're like, of course it happened. Like, just be excited about it. That's another thing that I did. I talked about how wonderful it was. Once again, another never God thing that I didn't know that I already knew. I was living these teachings and had no clue what I was doing. But I was manifesting all over the place. And I'm still manifesting, So anyway, that was what I wanted to tell you. So just remember, like 21 days for a baby chick. 5 months for a baby lamb. Okay? 10 months for a baby human. So just remember that as long as you know it's coming, and it's fast in coming, darling, it's not going to take you a long time. I think that's what we get irritated about, because we're like, I want it now. We want our stuff now. But listen, if you come into contact with someone and you're still like going through, maybe you're going through it like a breakup, and you thought they were the one or something, or they come to find out that they beat the bloody hell out of you, or you're like, oh my God, I'm like suicidal, or you're having a hard go of a time right now. You don't want your twin flame right now, because you're going to meet up with another twin flame that will have the exact things that you are showing through you being pushed out. Do you understand what I mean? You don't want someone like that. Like, have you ever noticed, like, here's another little brief story. Have you ever noticed, like, people will get in relationships, like, and then about 3 months down the road, it's like no honeymoon anymore. But then you go on and you're like, it's almost like a leapfrog effect. And you're like, on to the next one, on to the next one. You're like, why every time this bloody guy, it's a different face, a different person, different place, but it's still the same kind of person about 3 months down the road. Well, this is why, darling, you don't want to find your twin flame, because you want your twin flame to be completely opposite of what all the shitty stuff you had before. You know what I mean? You want good stuff now. So just mate with your own soul right now. Love yourself. You want your twin flame to like me. I want my twin flame. I want him to bring me flowers, just for no reason at all. Like, stop by and pick me some flowers on the road. Like, these were little things. Like, oh, I really want him to, like I said, grill for me, like grill some chicken on the grill. Like, I want him to compliment me and tell me, like, oh, I'll listen to you ramble on like for hours, Raquel, because I think you're so brilliant. Like, I wanted someone like that. So you know what I do? Like, I talk to myself in my video. A lot of them I never published, but some of them I would just ramble on. I made it with my own soul. I went to the movie theater and watched romantic movies, because I'm like, oh, me and my soulmate are going to watch, or twin flame are going to watch movies together. We're going to go to these romantic movies. He's going to cry if it's emotional, like he loves a love story. Like, he'll watch Downton Abbey with me, and I would say this out loud, and I would go to like the midnight matinee at the movie theater and watch romantic movies by myself. I would go and buy myself a cup of coffee or cup of tea, go and sit in a little coffee shop and have a cup of tea and read a book, read my Shakespeare book, whatever I was reading. And so I became my own best mate. And then obviously, I'm going to tell you in the next video how that ended up being within 8 weeks, I manifested Jeffrey. And like, it's amazing, beautiful story. Some of it is on my blog if you want to go and you look up, or like you type in RaquelCarter.com. And then if you want to read because I have so much good content, and it's evergreen content, you know, about like literally how I did all of this, and our story in written form, because you know me, and I'm a writer, so I like to be able to read stuff, because then you can go back and it's really, really good for you to read it. Now, you might not be a reader, but you can go and look on my videos too. So anyway, but the point is I do have it on written form on my blog if you want to ever go and just type in, like, in the search bar, because I've got a search bar on there, and it says type in like twin flames or soulmates or things. Yeah, usually if you just type in twin flame, I think it's labeled and tagged under that. So yeah, and you can do the same thing on my channel too if you want to, because I tag my videos. Okay, so like twin flame, soulmate, manifesting, whatever. So I hope that helped you. If it didn't, and you like still have some questions, now listen, I'm going to shoot the other video and it's going to go out too. So I'm like working you up. Like, I want you to be enthusiastic about this, because isn't it such fun? Like, I want to be on this journey with you and this voyage with you, because it's such fun. I love hearing about the stories that you guys have, you know, and I want to see how you did yours. Like, what was it? Like, how did yours come about? Because, you know, mine came about the Facebook. And so, yeah, I really want to hear your story, okay? So I hope that you have a lovely day. And I want you to know that I love you so much. I might not know who you are, you know, personally, but I love you just the same, because you're watching me, me rattle on about. And I want you to have a lovely day. And as always, I'm yours until my next swim. To the pit, darlings.